Hello, my name is Peter Parford. Welcome to the New Brick Workshop. Now, recently we went cycling, my wife and I, and we bumped into a couple, Richard and Barbara, who were also on a cycle ride together, and they showed us a brilliant gadget, or two gadgets they had, which allowed them to communicate from one cyclist to the other, even though they might have been several hundred metres apart. So useful, because the number of times that my wife and I have accidentally been split up because of traffic or whatever, and it's always useful to be able to say, "Are you okay?" or whatever it might be. And they had a pair of these gadgets. They're the Lexin B4FM intercom system. Now this is actually designed for motorcyclists, but the couple told us that they had tried the ones designed for cyclists, which were rather inferior, but these had a good range and were very reliable. And these are by no means anywhere near the top range in price of this type of gadget that you'll see on the internet. I bought these through eBay, and they've come from a company in China called Lexin Moto, and they trade under a name of Lexin-EU. And I'm very happy with the speed of delivery, and I'm just about to unbox them and try them out. Now, I've not had this box open before. It seems to be easy enough. And there you can see the pair of these transmitter receivers. And if I lift this up, put that there, you'll then see the absolute shed load of accessories and fitting gadgets, microphones and speakers that come with it. Absolutely oodles of it. And I must say, having read about these on the internet, I was quite impressed. And bearing in mind that you could pay up to £350 for one gadget, getting the two of these for just about £140, I think is really good value for money. And the reason I've got the cycle helmets in the picture is because these gadgets will fit on the side of your cycle helmet, and that means then that the wires going to the microphone and also the little speaker are very close to the gadget itself. Right, I've now taken one of the two sets out of the box, and I've shown the various components here now. And the other set I've fitted, and I think now is the time to show the finished product, because that will then give you an idea of what these various components do. There's the transmitter receiver here, and it's got a mounting bracket which I've fixed to my helmet. There's a microphone coming forward, and that's mounted on a Velcro pad here which is stuck to the helmet, and the microphone itself has got the other side of the Velcro so it can be taken off if required. Now if we now look under here, there are speakers, one for each ear, left and right. And the wires, I've managed to feed these in so they're trapped between the inner part of the helmet and the actual shell itself. And that then allows them to come out neatly at the back, and I've got a little clip here. I've added my own little bit of protection spiral wrap here to keep all the bits of cable neatly together, and then that's the finished job. Now let's go back to all these components. There's the transmitter receiver itself, and then there are two ways of mounting it. One is with the mounting bracket, which I've used on my helmet, and the other is to use a sticky pad, which then sticks onto your helmet, and then you mount the unit directly onto that. Now, they say that they cannot guarantee the efficiency of this over time, and I understand what they say. Now, other things in the kit, you've got the speakers, one for each ear, the microphone. In this assembly, it comes all joined together. Now, there are two pads associated with each of the loudspeakers, and the two pads, I've not got both of them here, and you'll see why shortly, would encapsulate each loudspeaker, so it's held within this sort of Velcro padded bag. But the other bits I've already fitted, and I'll show you what I've done in a minute. And then you come down to this, which is a boom microphone, and it's fitted with a Velcro sticky pad goes on the helmet, and then this part can detach and be positioned as you wish. That's the boom microphone. You don't have to have that. You can disconnect this here and have a microphone. If you're wearing a proper motorcycle helmet, you could have a microphone like this one, which is mounted just under the chin guard of your helmet. But because these are cycle helmets we're using, there's no chin guard, and therefore we're using that option. And there are a couple of other things I need to point out. They provide a variety of sticky foam pads for various purposes. They provide some screws and a small hex tool, and the screws are associated with this bracket arrangement, and the idea is that by putting the screws through here, this clamping action will hold the unit in place, and that's what I've used on my helmet. If we now look at this closely, you can see I've got the mounting bracket here, and then the retaining clip part of it, the rear part, goes down between the skin of the helmet and the padding, and then there are two screws here which makes this thing squeeze up together, and onto that arrangement one mounts the actual transmitter receiver. So that's all pretty easy. It was particularly easy with this helmet because I was able to use the proper mounting arrangement, so it's clipped on and held on via these screws. And you can see here the speakers, one for each ear. They have a Velcro pad here, and what we have done is to sew the other side onto the strap of the helmet, so that then keeps that in place. And when one's wearing the helmet, the speakers, one each side, are near the ears. So that's that one which I've done already. Now we need to work out how we're going to do it with the other type of helmet. Now this is a more common type of helmet. It doesn't have an outer shell as such. The polystyrene or whatever it is has this stuck-on shell, I suppose it is, a hard outer surface. But the two things are absolutely bonded together. So I've got to work out a different way of doing this. And when I was showing the Velcro pads which the loudspeakers fit into, there's one side which is now sewn onto the strap of this helmet there, and the other side with the loudspeaker goes onto there, and it holds it all in place. But the important part of this is that this part has been sewn onto the strap, so it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to dangle down. Now this transmitter receiver unit is held on really firmly here. Now in order to remove it, you have this removal tool, which is part of the kit. You push it down in here, it forces a spring away, and then it allows you to then lift the unit up and away. So that's the unit now removed from the mounting bracket. And you can see the spring clip which is used to keep the transmitter receiver in place. And to put it back, you just slide it back same way that I removed it, and you heard it click there, and I can now reconnect the cable. Now with this helmet, as I said, I was a bit worried about how I was going to go about it because of this complete one-piece shell. So I thought long and hard about it, and this is what I've done, but you must work out your own solution. So I've now decided not to use this clamping bracket because this helmet really doesn't lend itself to that sort of arrangement. So I've taken the backing plate and I've used some double-sided sticky pads which I bought from eBay, and they're cheap and cheerful, not terribly expensive, and I've used that to really hold this piece in place. But I was a bit worried about what would happen, perhaps in the heat, if that double-sided stickiness failed. And so I then took a very small drill, and I drilled all the way through in 4 places, 2 here and 2 there. And I've used string, which I think you can probably just about see here, as a sort of belt and braces, and I've tied it reasonably tight. The string's not actually doing the function of holding the bracket in place. It's there should the double-sided sticky fail, so that this thing doesn't fly away. And so you can see I've tied some knots there, and that's now securing this in place to my satisfaction. But you must work out your own way of doing this, because I can't advise you. You mustn't damage the integrity of the helmet, and I felt that these 4 very small holes, just big enough for the string, were not going to damage the integrity of the helmet. And I've also bought from eBay these little wire tidy clip things which are stick-on, and I've used those to keep the wiring arrangements nice and tidy. Now, because this helmet is curved, I warmed these up a little bit and bent them just a tiny bit so that they would conform to the shape of the helmet. Now, when I first set these up to test them, I didn't quite push the connector fully in, and it needed just an extra little bit of a push to make a proper connection. And that was my fault, and anyway, I soon discovered the problem. So that's the only issue I had, and it's very, very minor. Now, of course, before you can use them, you should make sure they're fully charged, and they supply a lead, one for each machine, and it's got a USB connector on one end and a little connector that goes in here, and you just charge it. And it probably takes about 2 hours to charge from scratch, maybe slightly more. I didn't really time it, but anyway, once charged, they're reckoned to be able to operate for up to 15 hours. So that's pretty good, really. Now let's just have a quick look at the controls. On here there are 4 controls. There's one marked with an X, one which looks like an on-off switch on its own, and then an up and down pair here. Now, in actual fact, to turn the power on and to turn the power off, you press not only the one that looks like the power button, but also the one over here with the X. So to turn it on, you press both these for 1 second. And then you can see the little blue light here is flashing. These are volume controls, and they have 1 or 2 other functions which I'm not going to go into. You can look that up in the instructions. And if I now turn on the second machine by pressing those 2 for 1 second, and you can see that little blue light's flashing. So I've got them both turned on. Now, in order to operate them in intercom mode on both units, you need to press the X at the same time for just over a second. Not really terribly easy to do as a demonstration, but anyway, press them both about a second, and you can see now that the lights are flashing red and blue. And they're doing that whilst they establish an intercom connection between the two. And this might take quite a few seconds. I noticed that it took about 30 seconds, and so I'll cut to when that's settled down. And once it's established in intercom mode and it's indicated by the red and the blue lights flashing at the same time, you can then just press the intercom button once, and you can do it on either machine, and that then allows the intercom function to operate. And when it's operating, you don't have to press any buttons to speak, you just talk, and you can both talk at the same time. It doesn't matter because it's a dual channel system, so that one person's voice is coming on one channel and the other person's voice on another, and you can talk at the same time. You don't need to say over and out or any of that silly sort of stuff. You just carry on talking. And that's the mode that we leave it in when we're cycling. And the microphones are super. They do not allow traffic noise or wind noise to go out over the intercom system. It's only when you speak, and then the microphone picks up your speech and sends it to the other person. And you just leave it in that mode all the time whilst you're cycling. And when you finish for the day, turn the machines off, and you turn them off by pressing both buttons again. and that's it. Now, there are other functions which I'm not going to demonstrate. You can answer telephone calls with just the press of one button. You don't need to touch your phone, press one of those buttons on there. You can listen to a radio, broadcast FM radio, and you can also listen to music on your smartphone if you wish. So there's all those things which I'm not going to demonstrate or describe. All I will say is that we have used these when we went cycling for 3 days, and it was absolutely brilliant. So having at one stage thought that I wouldn't make this video, I very nearly threw all the bits of video away. They're so good that I've decided that I should share it with you. We paid the full price, and we're absolutely delighted and very grateful to Richard and Barbara for telling us about them in the first place. Many thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.